All right. Well, we see it as like the stars in some sort of roof, or some people say a dome, but they're in some kind of structure above us, as in the constellations that we know are in one sort of, if you like, format, and they stay in that format and have done for all of recorded human history, which is why they don't move. If everything's spinning and whizzing at billions of miles an hour, they never move relative to each other. So that's the one factor. The other, and the most important, is that the wandering stars, which we call planets today, they were always known as wandering stars. They are, if I observe them with my naked eye, all I see is another star. Yeah. So that's all I see. Now, I'll ask you to think about it like this. This is one of the things I realized to myself, is that if they are planets, dusty planets or gas giants, as we've been taught, and that they are reflecting the sun's light from millions and millions of years, miles away from us, yeah. So the sun's light is traveling all the way to that millions of miles away Saturn or whatever, and then it's reflecting its light back to my eye, and it looks identical to one of the other suns that they say the stars are, right? You've got to equate that in your mind and say, so when NASA fly one of their sort of Voyager probes out there and takes a photo of one of those things, why are they not so bright? Because they have to be as light as a star. They have to be as bright as a star in order to reflect back to your light.
They're just closer.
All right. So, I mean, how do you know that, though? How do we really know that? Okay. So I agree with you. So let me think. Okay.
I just do that well enough that I can see the stripes of it.
Yep.
And can count 4 of its moons.
Okay. But you a spherical object by looking at it through a telescope, because you've only got one eye and you can't resolve 3Ds in one eye. So that's one of the problems. And I think that what modern telescopes do is they put in a digital overlay so that it can kind of clean that up. But let me ask you to think about something else, because I know listen, I've spoken to loads of people about
Optical telescope.
Okay. Well, let me ask you to look at, if you don't mind, looking at, because I don't think telescopes are nearly as powerful as we've been told they are. So they're not looking millions of miles away. They're only looking tens of miles away. That's my view, because if you take your telescope and take it to the highest building here in town, and then try and focus on a house at the outskirts of town, try and resolve a person in that house on the outskirts of town, and you won't be able to do that. Because your telescope is not that powerful. But I want to offer you something else about the luminaries, particularly the moon. And that is that if the moon is up during the daytime, the dark patches of the moon resemble the same color as the background sky, like blue or whatever. But it's never like black or dark. So all I'm asking you to think is that they say the sun is 93 million miles away, but the means of measuring that is an unknown thing. Nobody can tell me how it is that we measure it, and how in the last 100 years it's gone from 3 million miles to 27 million miles according to Kepler. We've had 80 million miles, we've had 110 million miles, 103 million miles. Now we're at 93 million miles. So these are huge differences in the maths. So parallax or whatever.
I think there's little chance that we're going to resolve this argument. I think none of us are leaving here thinking that
That's great. Please do the research, though. I'm not asking you to believe me.
But I was just interested in the experience of life.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. Yeah.
When you go and see a film about space,
You mean like that Hollywood made it? Yeah.
Anything.
I know. Yeah.
Is it difficult?
What's your name? Seth.
Yes.
Okay. How old are you, Seth? Okay. No, I'm not asking you. I appreciate your question. I think it's a fantastic question. I'm 50. And 3. Well, for me, it started with 9/11 at the beginning of 2015. I found out that, you look at 9/11 Beyond and the BBC tell you, and you find out that none of us right. So I look at it again, I'm like, okay, there's something very badly wrong with that. Then in May of 2015, a friend introduced me to DMT. Do you know about your pineal gland? Okay, so you've heard of ayahuasca, maybe? You in South America, it's like you take this plant and it connects you to the spirit world. I went in 5 minutes of doing DMT. I went from a full full-fat atheist. My mother, dying mother, couldn't get me to accept in a God. In 2008, when I had a 5-minute experience with DMT, I'm connected to everything, or something beyond this, or I'm an eternal being, and we are from a totally love paradigm. So I came back from that. So I know about the flat Earth then. All right. So I found out that, but I came home because I was in South Africa on a book tour. I'd published a book, and I was on a book tour. So a whole lot of research into DMT, and I stumbled across people suggesting that the Earth is flat. And I'm like, nah. But a few weeks later, something that I'd heard about the curvature and the formula for curvature started ticking away in my brain, because I'd grown up near ships on the sea. My dad's a seaman and stuff like that. So I'd seen a lot of distance shots in my mind of things far away on a clear day. And I started to think, shit, why wasn't that below the water? Why isn't that hidden by the water and so on? So I guess in a very short space, about 6 months, one from being just a regular Joe, sipping on my Costa coffee and going to the movies, or okay, it had been about a year or two since I'd stopped watching TV and stuff. But for me, realizing that the entire construct has been a deception from before I was born. My grandparents were born into a deception, the one that took us to law.
Are you skeptical? What other things are you skeptical about? I mean, isn't it
well, I'm more liberated now, and I'll tell you why. Because before I was fearful of things like could asteroids, or could my life end, or could well, particularly this idea that I was just, here a brief moment in time. That was all my life was a brief moment in time. I had nothing to live for.
Your belief is this completely connected to a religious belief?
No. I think, there is an element, I would have to accept that there's an element of my DMT experience gave me an insight that I fall back. So I had the veil, the 3D veil ripped from my eyes for 5 minutes, and I couldn't resolve anything in the material. Everything was just waveform. So the guy that was with me was just an electrical wave. I could see him, I could see his eyes, I could recognize his eyes, but he was just an electrical wave, and the plants around me were just pulsing electrical waves. And I had no idea about whether I've done acids and things like that, mushrooms and stuff in my lifetime. And so I've had psychedelic experiences. This wasn't that. This was the tearing away of the veil and opening of the third eye, which you can research. And for me, it was the pivotal moment that changed everything. Now, I know, obviously, I'm a bit of an outsider as someone who thinks that the Earth isn't a ball. The majority of people think that the Earth, of course, the Earth is a ball, and I come from that backdrop. Now, I can't enjoy cinema. I can't enjoy the entertainment of the masses. Would you like a flyer? Have you got a spare flyer? Would you like? No, I'll tell you what, because there's a photo on the back of that is telling. There's a photo on the back of that that's telling. That's the 400-kilometer photo where you can see these islands.
I'm interested in just what your life is like.
Okay.
I'm not going to go there.
Okay, fine. For me, I'm a more alive human being than I've ever been. At 46, coming on 47 at the time of me finding this, I was sort of heading towards middle age, and my life has got no purpose, and I'm just going to see this out and what have you. So I discovered that I've been lied to on every level. I said to my wife, we're stopping all the chemicals, birth control, you name it. And if we have another child, it'll be a flat Earth child. And he's here. He's 18 months old today. Took her 2 years. And not believe. Let's move away from belief. You believe you live on a spinning ball because you believe in gravity. Yeah, gravity is an unproven theory. So it's like theory. It's all religious, I'm afraid. And gravity is that. And the relativity that says you can walk on the underside of the ball is a belief. But the idea that water is going to do what it says in my physics class, which is it'll settle and find its own level. See, that's not a belief. That's provable fact. And as I might have said to you already, 100 miles long, and there's not a bit of curvature